Mason jars aren't just for canned goods. People have been decorating their homes with these for years. Today I'm going to show you some tips and tricks on how to create custom, one-of-a-kind home decor pieces. For this project, I'm using one of Dollar Tree's mason jars. I like this one because it doesn't have any of the raised portions and it's going to be perfect to add some dried flowers to. You can find dried flowers at Amazon, Temu, and sometimes Walmart. I'll try to find some at Amazon and leave a link in my description box below. You'll also need some tweezers because they are very delicate and you don't want to break them as you're picking them up. I'm going to start off by placing all of my greenery out first. And then I'm going to be attaching it to the jar using Mod Podge and a very soft paintbrush. First, apply your Mod Podge to the outside of your jar in an area large enough for you to place your first piece of greenery. You may have to hold it on one end as you are applying the Mod Podge to the top of the greenery. Just be very gentle because again, they are delicate. If some of the stems won't lay down, you can trim those with your scissors. Once you have this piece completely saturated with the Mod Podge, just continue to go around and add all of your greenery in the same way. This is how it's looking so far. I'm going to let that dry for a few minutes while I'm laying out my next layer of flowers. These have some pretty long stems, so I'll break those down. I think they're too thick to stick to the jar. I'm going to apply these with the same method that I did with the greenery. And because it's a curved surface, some of those areas may have to be clipped and then move it with your brush to line it back up. Then cover it up with some Mod Podge. I'm going to continue to add these particular flowers around the jar, placing them in between the greenery pieces. You're going to want to let that dry for about an hour before you start adding your other flowers because you don't want your Mod Podge to start clumping up on you. Now that the Mod Podge is dry to the touch, I can add my remaining flowers all throughout at the bottom and some at the top. Once you've added your final flower, set your jar aside and allow it to dry for at least 2 hours. Now we're going to apply a single layer of Mod Podge over the entire jar to seal everything in. You may have to do this twice, allowing it to dry a couple of hours in between, just depending on the clarity you want your jar to have. I also painted the bottom of mine so that the entire jar would have the same clarity. This is a great way to display your preserved dried flowers, and it is just a gorgeous decor piece. I'm going to take some Dollar Tree battery-operated fairy lights and wrap them around my fingers so that when I pull it off my fingers, it'll have a nice curl to it. Then I can tuck that down into my jar, fold the wire over on the back side of the jar, and place this lid from Dollar Tree on top. This is the one where you could add some flowers through the top. This piece is absolutely gorgeous. Using one of these battery-operated lights from Dollar Tree, I made a lamp with a basket a couple of years ago, and I spray painted the top part of this black. I want to reuse it for this project, but I do need to touch it up with some black paint. They usually come in a silver or gold. I'm also using this candle holder from Dollar Tree. I just need the base, not the gold part. I'm going to give that one coat of the same black paint. I'm using a pint-sized mason jar. You can find these at Walmart. The battery-operated light fits perfectly inside of this. You could add some E6000 to attach it to the jar. However, I don't want to do that because the jar is a bit heavy and I don't want anybody to pick it up by the handle and it come apart. Now we can just simply sit this on top of our base, and this looks like one of those old antique lanterns. I previously decoupaged this bunny napkin onto this mason jar. I'll have that video linked in the cards up above if you guys want to see how I did that. I want to add a little bit of color to this one and change it up a bit. I'm going to start by removing the purple ribbon that I had at the top. This was just hot glued, so it was really easy to remove. I'm using some chalk paint in the color Celery, which I thought would be perfect to complement the colors in this napkin. I'm carefully going around all of the edges of the napkin and give this entire jar 2 thin coats, allowing each coat to dry thoroughly before adding the next coat. This paint is an absolutely gorgeous color. It's one of my favorite colors. To blend in the napkin edges, I'm going to use some antique wax and apply that with a very small detailed brush in small sections. Then I'm going to use a dry Q-tip to blend that out. You want to make sure you're doing very small sections at a time so that your antique wax doesn't dry before you're able to blend it out. I'll continue to do that around all of the edges of the napkin. I think this looks much better than it did with just the clear jar. I'm not going to add that purple ribbon back on. Instead, I want to hot glue some twine around the top. This step is completely optional, but I do like to singe the furry pieces off of the twine. Just be very careful that you don't burn your project, especially the napkin. This is going to give it the nice, clean look. Then you can add in some florals, or you could add in a battery-operated votive. Because we didn't paint behind the napkin, that light is going to show through the napkin beautifully. You can find these preserve or jelly jars at Walmart. They have beautiful designs on them, and I think they will make gorgeous candles. I'll be using a white Dollar Tree candle. It's about 7 ounces, and this will be plenty of wax to fill this small jar. You want to set it into a pot of warm water and set it on a medium to low heat, allowing the candle wax to melt down. This can take anywhere from 25 to 40 minutes. In addition to your jar, you're going to need some tweezers or a utensil that you would not use for food, barbecue skewers that you'll be able to sit on top of your jar and hold your wick in place. And I want my candle to smell like lavender, so I will be adding a fragrance oil. This came from Brambleberry. If you use a fragrance oil, just check to make sure that it is safe to use in candles. I'm using a plastic fork to get the wick out, and then I can set that in between my barbecue skewers to keep the wick in the center and also keep it straight. I forgot to mention that I did put some wax paper down to protect my counter. Once you bend over your wick onto your barbecue skewer and allow it to stand straight up, you can then add in your melted wax. If you're not going to be adding any fragrance oils, you could go ahead and fill your jar up now. I filled the bottom third of my jar with the wax and added a few drops of the fragrance oil. Then more wax, then more fragrance, then more wax, then a few more drops of fragrance because I want my candle to smell like lavender throughout. Allow a couple of hours for your wax to cool down and your candle to set up. Now you can remove your barbecue skewer and trim down your wick about 1/4 inch above the wax. I will be hot gluing some twine periodically around the rim of the top of the jar. Before I cut that off, I will add a small sprig of lavender, and this bundle came from Walmart. I'm going to hot glue that onto the twine and then continue wrapping the twine around to cover up that stem. I will carefully singe all of those little furry pieces off, and these would make perfect gifts for friends, family, co-workers, or teachers. For this project, I'm using a pint-sized mason jar with a gold lid from Dollar Tree. The lid had a label on it which left some glue behind, so I'm going to use some rubbing alcohol to remove that, or you could use some goof off. You could make your own bird's nest, or you could use one of these 2-inch bird's nests from Hobby Lobby. They come in a pack of 4 for $4.49. I don't have any eggs small enough to fit in the bird's nest, so I'm going to use some air dry clay that you can also find at Hobby Lobby to create my own eggs. I'm just going to take a small piece and roll it into a ball and then kind of move my hands back and forth to create an oval shape. Then you want to pinch one end a little bit and round the other end off. Just keep working with it until you get the shape of an egg. I originally made 4 of them, but I'm only going to use 3. I'm going to place those inside of the nest, and then using some Spanish moss, I'm going to form this into a ball and kind of tuck that down into the jar. And I'm using the end of a paintbrush to kind of push that down. I'm also going to use some of Dollar Tree's springberry garland, and I twisted it tight enough and small enough so that it would be able to fit down inside of the jar. I used maybe half of the roll of berry garland, and to move these around, you can use your Cricut weeding tool, or if you don't have one of these, I think Dollar Tree sells some of these too. That way I can help move the garland around where I want it to be. And then I can place the nest with the eggs on the inside, and I'm going to take that weeding tool to pull some of that garland up so it kind of comes above the nest, because I want the nest to kind of sit sideways so you could see the eggs, and then I wanted some of that garland to go over top of it. Once I place the lid back on, I want to add some of Dollar Tree's burlap ribbon just around the edge of the lid, and I'm going to do that using some hot glue. And once I finish that, I'm going to very carefully singe those furry pieces off of that burlap ribbon, This project turned out absolutely gorgeous, and I would love to know what you guys think. If you enjoyed today's projects, please make sure to give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed already, I would love for you to click that subscribe button right below the video. If you have a favorite, please let me know in the comment section down below. I always love to know which one is your favorite. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Please take care, and I will see you guys next time.